Hello, good morning and welcome. This is Mike Ram speaking to you about weight loss and personal development and the Way to You program. This is the first in a series of YouTube videos which I hope will manage to make an impact. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is why weight loss and personal development in my life. What am I doing here? What authority do I have? And what is my story? I used to be quite a lot overweight, several stones. Well, actually, it was over 5 stone, nearly 6 stone. And I'd reached a weight of 17 stone 1. Now, this didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual climb up the rankings, so to speak, because of the life I was leading, and I can trace it back to a number of things, including one very disastrous year I had in which a lot of things changed, and I struggled to make head or tail out of what was going on, and never really recovered my poison life, and had various mental health issues as well. And so my body expanded, it blew up, because food became a currency of pleasure and enjoyment. There wasn't very much else to enjoy. And so, various things would end up in my mouth to actually compensate for the misery I felt. I suspect this is a fairly common phenomenon amongst people. I went through various scenes in my life, including a divorce, and getting over a divorce, I'd started drinking quite heavily, as one does. Not because I wanted a drink, but because I thought it was a natural rite of passage for some reason. I'd seen too many movies about people who had been in a bad relationship and getting out of it and hitting the bottle, and it seemed like a reasonable thing to do. I didn't hit anything very hard. I wasn't a spirit drinker, for instance. I kept myself to beer and wine, which is probably quite fortunate, considering. So, my story really starts at the end of the 1980s, because I was just getting fatter and fatter and piling on a pound or so a week. And I could feel it expand. I remember looking at myself in front of a full-length mirror, half naked, and thinking, yuck, that is revolting. It was not a good sight. And for a long time I thought, I'm really a thin person trying to express myself, and yet my body's fat. And this is not very good. So I started looking for ways of losing weight, and it appeared they were few and far between. We didn't have the vast internet web that we now have, where you can look things up with quite the same ease. In fact, we had no central information centres at all. You could find stuff out from a library. You might find stuff out from a magazine. You might find stuff out from a health food bulletin board, such as they were, or you could ask in a place like Boots for supplements, help you take the edge off your appetite. Now, I knew that in women's magazines there was they ran fad diets every week, but I wasn't about to get involved in A, reading women's magazines, and B, fad diets, because I felt my problem was way beyond that. Now, I knew that food was about calories and science and measurement, but I had no way of putting the whole thing together where I began to understand what was going on. Nor did I know very much about the interrelationship between carbohydrates, which is sort of things like potatoes, bread, rice, cereal, and protein, which is things like meat, eggs, fish, nuts, cheese, legumes, which are sort of beans, and tofu and stuff. Nor did I understand the great part. Although I liked vegetables, I didn't really understand how integral they were, or fruit for that matter, or that you had to have a certain amount of fat. So I was nutritionally illiterate, semi-illiterate. I knew a bit, but not enough. And I didn't have a laboratory or a workbench in which I could measure calorific values of food and work out how much I could eat of each food until then. In fact, I really didn't know enough how to keep weight off, and the diet I was following was pretty haphazard. I turned vegetarian a few years earlier, and I didn't really have a handle on it. In fact, in certain ways it would have been better if I kept on eating meat, because then I probably would have had a balanced diet, but that's by the by. And substituting protein with carbohydrates is no way to proceed at all. I had a certain amount of protein in my food, but not enough really to write home about. So it was that I was looking for ways of reducing my weight, because my weight had come off automatically when I'd left school and gone on a bus trip around the USA and just drank cups of coffee instead of eating meals, and I'd lost a lot of weight doing that. And just in the natural process of growing. So I spent my early 20s looking quite slim and sylph-like, but I didn't have a clue how, when I got a bit older, how to start keeping my body down to a reasonable weight. And although I wasn't sort of big on sweet things and necessarily things that put pounds on, beer is a bit like drinking a liquid cream cake. If you get my drift, that's the way it works. So as I ended up at 17 stone 1, which was a ridiculous weight really. And I knew it, sort of the stairs would creak as I walked up, and the car would sink when I got into it, and the bath would go down into the floor when I got into it. And yeah, overall I felt disgruntled with myself and depressed because there didn't seem any way out. I was sort of in an out of control lifestyle without a way of dealing with it. Now, at one point I was offered some milkshakes from sachets, to which one added water, as being the way to deal with my problem. Oh my God. After 3 days, noticing I was sweating unnaturally and just feeling quite faint, I gave up this particular scheme as being more dangerous to me than being overweight. And later on, people suggested that I should stop drinking liquids as much as possible because I had edema, which is water retention, which again I thought that was pretty stupid. I naturally sort of like drinking liquids. It seems part and parcel of life, and I wasn't about to test out my reactions if I didn't drink liquids. It just seemed too dangerous for words. But the fact that I was able to put off doing those sort of schemes didn't mean to say I'd found any sort of remedy, and it wasn't until a number of months later that I was actually told of a place I could go which might be able to help me deal with my weight. And because so many people seem to have ideas about losing weight, and also everybody thought that they knew the answer to weight loss, and maybe one or two of them did. It seemed like I had sort of become public property, and people would sort of look at me sort of like I was their business and be quite rude, which is sort of a bit off-putting because it gets a bit boring. And one guy at some point patted me on the stomach and asked me when I was due, which was, innocent humour, I suppose, but it sort of affected me at the time. I just thought, oh shit, I really do have to deal with this, because punks like that, looking at me in that way, they don't really enamour themselves to me. It's like a bit smart aleck comment. And so, anyway, I went off to this place that I'd been told about, and was told about their food plans, and I was given a diet sheet and told what I had to do, and I went off with it, and I thought, well, maybe this will work and maybe it won't. Within a couple of days, actually, I'd seen that this was better than spending time drinking and stuff, which had been something I'd been worried about. Would I be able to give up alcohol? But I looked at the sheet, the food plan sheet, and I bought the things on it as best I could, and decided I would follow this thing, and I would just do it, because it wasn't impossible. In fact, it seemed very workable, because it had every piece of information I needed, and I could measure what I was eating and weigh it. And I actually quite like eating what I was eating. It seemed to make sense. It was a change to what I had been eating, because I'd lost interest in cooking really, and I was only three-quarter cooking things, so slightly hard potatoes would go into my mouth, and rather terrible mixtures would come out of my wok. Nothing entirely satisfying. It's sort of like being given the lesson in life that actually you can make proper meals that aren't too hard to make without trying awfully hard. You just have to have the right ingredients. So I followed it, and I became very, very, very focused. And when I saw the results that I was getting and realised that I was beginning to get a better sort of nutrition into my body, that was the encouragement I needed. And so I lost a lot of weight. Over the course of a year, I lost 5 stone 11. And that took me to the weight I wanted to be, which is a hell sight different from being 17 stone 1. 11 stone 4 is quite a normal weight for somebody of my height, and actually on the slim side. And it was just very pleasant moving around, being that weight. And I realised I'd gone on a long journey, which I might have given up at any time, but because I saw the results coming in, I knew that I had to keep on with it. And it was better than anything else I was doing. As for my life around pubs, that sort of went into abeyance. I just didn't go. I thought just before I'd given up going around bars, I just got bored of the company I was keeping anyway, and that was sort of a great help. And the drink matter, it just sort of disintegrated after a couple of days. I thought, I'm not missing it at all. I don't actually like going out every day and having a few pints. It doesn't satisfy me that. It doesn't really give me so much as I might think. I'm around a place and there are people I know who also go to the place I go, but I hadn't formed any particularly strong relationships. And would I miss it very much? No, not an awful lot, although one or two people tried to make me feel guilty about it because I deserted them. And as they say, drinking loves a companion, as does misery. But that's another, that was by the by, because I got my teeth into this matter of losing weight, and it seemed like it was the best thing I could do, and I felt like I was wrapped up for it. And very early on, I felt like I'd been spared from an early heart attack in life, sort of just dealing with the excess weight problem. And I think other people were quite impressed by what I was doing. And anyway, I just went through with it. I felt like a success for once. It's very nice to feel like a success when in the previous few years you just felt like the onrush of failure as you get older. And it wasn't, hadn't been a really good place to be, so there's no problem in actually leaving that life because I wasn't that fond of it. Although it meant that I hung around with myself more often, and I discovered painting and a few other things that satisfied me. And then once I'd reached that weight, I carried on. And I realised after a time I'd sort of become a different version of myself. Somebody who was completely dedicated to, looking after themselves and being healthy and wanting to do exercise and wanting to look good, and had ideas about, the healthy lifestyle. And I cracked vegetarianism so that I used it properly, and I was putting the right balances of food into my body so that my body became properly nourished and things started working better. And the mental side of it was massive, because that whole wave of depression and sense of futility that I felt beforehand, and the mental fog, that lifted, just left, and was replaced by sort of quite a high degree of optimism, really, and feeling upbeat, which is what one wants, because life isn't really about one long dirge. It's about, enjoyment and living positively and making the most out of it, because we don't know about how many we get, and, it's really stupid to think we get more than one, whatever the reality of the situation is. So living here and now is really the way it had to be. And I think the insights looking back that I got from losing weight was that it could lead on to so many other good things, that weight loss in itself was just one part of the transformative process. Although it was the initial thing which started it. That losing weight was a hub to other areas in life, and the improvement to one's health, to one's psychology, to one's appeal, to one's athleticism, and just to one's mood in life was so incredible from losing weight that, if you look at it properly, it's a tremendous gift, and it's a sort of form of alchemy that one performs on oneself once one has the knowledge. Anyway, I kept all this weight off for long enough to know that I could do it, and eventually I decided that when I got into the idea of marketing, that I should actually market out my experiences of weight loss so that other people could follow the trip that I followed, follow the journey I followed, use the methodology in their life so that they could lose weight and get out of it some of the things that I got out of it, because the transformation was massive. And that's why I evolved the Way to You weight loss system, which is a weight loss and personal development system. It's all encompassing, and it brings together, two natural things in life that act on a person for their benefit and give them a better life. And in fact, you can become a new person, really just starting out from the hub of losing weight to where all possibilities are there. And you may not know now what can become of you if you do something like a weight loss program, but sure, it does open up a whole different world. Becoming your best self is just part of it. And I see this process very much as a sort of personal alchemy, where the base metal of one's body is transformed into a beautiful new you who's slim, healthy and fit, via a workable food plan. So anyway, I put together this program which I learned how to market as well, slowly. Slowly. I'll give you my marketing story on another episode, but it's been remarkable. And, well, this is something I'm happy to do and very proud to do, because obviously when something benefits you, then it's sort of up to you to give it out to other people, to produce the same thing for other people. And I hope that anybody who listened to my story can relate in some part to where I've been, and see that they don't have to be stuck in a world where they don't know quite what's going on. And I think the parameters are slightly different now, because with the internet there's almost the danger of too many solutions being out there, and you might be wondering what sort of solution should you adopt to lose weight. And obviously you can't try them all, so actually you want to get to something that works quickly before you have all that time wasted and a lot of money spent, because I can tell you that this method works. And you know, if you can read, if you can go shopping, if you can just generally act with a degree of focus and self-discipline, then I see no reason why anybody else shouldn't benefit from the same methods that I used. Anyway, my name is Mike Ram. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that what I've said is of benefit. And of course, my program, The Way to You, is available below, and you can hit the link to go and see it.